Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Black Queer Unapologetic. And today we are kicking off Pride Month with a question that hits differently depending on who you ask and where you live and what you've survived. And most importantly, how honest you're willing to be. So we're going to ask the question, is pride still necessary? And for some people, a lot of people, pride has become just a party, a playlist, a parade, something to dress up for, go shopping, post about, all of that stuff. But for other people, I would argue, for all of us in some way, pride is still a protest. It's still political. It's still very personal. It's still a declaration of survival for our community, our freedom, our identity. It's all just so important. This episode is personal for me. It will probably be personal for a lot of other people. And it's not just about a parade, it's about presence, it's about showing up, even when the world tries to convince you not to. I will be attending World Pride this year for the first time ever, and it just happens to be in Washington, D.C., with the capital of the United States. This is about showing up, especially when they try to intimidate you out of your joy. So let's get into it.
Hey, black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. I know who I am, now you know what I'm about. I say the thoughts in my head out loud. Let's get into it, let's pick up the flow though. Brought to you by the one they call JoJo. Black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. Let's go.
Let's start with the facts that oftentimes get buried under the glitter every year. Pride was never just a celebration. It didn't come from corporations, even though they want to participate in it every year. It didn't emerge because the world suddenly accepted us. It didn't come from thin air or some type of miraculous world change. It came from people who had been pushed to the edge, people who were sick of being silenced, harassed, beaten, arrested, humiliated, hiding for simply existing. We've softened the story, we've sanitized it, repackaged it for marketing purposes, but underneath it all, pride is and always has been a refusal to disappear. So when I go to Pride, I'm not just going to dance. I'm honoring people who fought for the tiny bit of visibility that we have today, for the tiny bit of tolerance that we have today. People who got their asses beat physically, emotionally, and socially so I could live more fully than they could. Let that sink in. Pride is the aftermath of resistance. It is joy born from exhaustion and blood and sweat and tears. It is survival dressed in glitter. And that is something that we really need to realize. Now, let's talk about right now, because that was way back then. Where have we gotten to? Because every time someone says, do y'all still need pride? There's cities popping up with straight pride events and all that shit. And I just want to ask, have you seen the news? Who's actually under attack? Look at what's happening in the US. Look at the rise of anti-trans laws, the way LGBTQ plus books are being stripped from shelves, the online harassment, real world attacks, job discrimination, bathroom bans, housing instability, mental health crises in our communities. And yet people act confused when we talk about pride like it's a serious thing. The hostility is very real. And pride is not just about being festive. It's about being unapologetically and fearlessly yourself. We show up because we live in a world where people are killed and are erased and shamed for being queer. And if we don't show up, if we stop being loud, if we stop reminding them that we are human and whole and powerful and that we exist, then we make it easier for them to erase us again and again and again. I'm going to World Pride this year because I am not the type of person that gets bullied. I have been to many of Prides since I was 18 years old. Puerto Vallarta Pride, Palm Springs Pride, Seattle Pride, Honolulu Pride, Mexico City Pride. The list is long. Portland Pride, Tampa, all that shit. Now, I do want to tell you something real because it's not just straight people trying to bully us out of pride. They have convinced us that it is dangerous and it is something that we should be afraid of. And a lot of people have canceled their tickets and sold their, concert, festival passes and all that shit. I get it. I get it. It's not a convenient thing to throw yourself into because the world doesn't feel safe. And I don't think the streets will be perfectly loving or affirming. And that's not why I'm going. I'm going because I refuse to be bullied out of my joy. Joy is something that I hold sacred to myself. And I enjoy going to these events and I enjoy showing up as a Black queer person who has had many relationships with women, in a few relationships with men, unfortunately, just a few. But I show up to take back space and take up space, even within the queer community, because as a Black person, I know that I hold a different type of space in this community. I say, you may not want me there. You may try to scare me away, but I'm still going to show up in every way, and you just going to have to deal with it. Every time a queer person backs out of pride because they're afraid of being attacked or harassed or outed, it chips away at the power of presence, showing up, being visible, and standing your ground in your existence. And I understand the fear, but we cannot be afraid to be seen. I'm going to be there, not just for me, not just to have a good time, but I will have a good time. Let's be clear. But I will be there for every queer person who couldn't, for every queer person who is afraid to go, every queer person that came before me, every Black queer person that came before me, for every version of myself that stayed home and shrunk, and previous versions of myself that second guessed my worth in my own existence. Let's talk about corporations for a second, because every June, go on LinkedIn, any website, the rainbow capitalism arrives. Suddenly, every logo is gay, rainbows up the U high. Brands releasing pride collections, banks, fast food chains, airlines. They want a piece of the rainbow, but let me tell you this, where the hell is that on July 1st? Were they thinking of their queer workforce before June 1st? Where are they when queer workers face discrimination at their companies? Do they have policies in place that are inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community? Where are they when anti-trans legislation is being passed? Where are they when a gay couple is denied housing or adoption rights, or when Black queer people are being ignored in marketing and hiring? Allyship is not seasonal. Allyship is not a sales strategy. If you're going to be in it, then you need to be all the way in it. If you support the community and then that disappears when Pride Month ends, it was never real support to begin with. We've got to stop clapping for crumbs and celebrating these companies who are only worried about their bottom line. Stop thanking people for basic decency and just know that real allies are consistent. They will put their money, time, policy, and voice behind our community's liberation, not just a float and a fucking parade. So if you're going to be in it, you need to be all the way in it and stop picking and choosing just so you can increase your sales. Now, switching gears, because that's all I got to say about that. On a personal note, because beyond all the visibility and celebration, many of us are still carrying shame. There are some people who may not be out, or maybe they haven't been to a pride celebration before. Feeling maybe shame for how they love or shame for how they express themselves, shame from religion or from family or from school or from childhood or even corporate America trying to tell you who you should be and how you should behave and all of that shit. Shame from being told directly or indirectly that your existence has been an inconvenience. You're too complicated. We don't understand. I'm not here to, you don't need to understand me. You just need to respect me. And that doesn't disappear because there's a parade. Pride is for me. Pride is for us. Pride is an opportunity to be with like minded individuals. It's a place where, I mean, I get to practice loving myself out loud. It's a time where I can say I'm done apologizing and I'm done editing and done performing for the masses. And it's where I can remind myself that I don't owe anyone an explanation. I don't have to make my identity more palatable or more marketable or more respectable or professional. Black, queer, and still in the margins because I'm sitting here talking about corporations who will judge you based on what events you attend and what you look like, what you dress like, your hair color, your hair texture, your hair this, your clothing, your the way you walk, the way you speak, all of that. But let name a truth that is less often talked about. Well, maybe not by me if you listen to this podcast enough, but even in queer spaces, black and brown people are often sidelined. We're celebrated in theory, but excluded very much so in practice. When it comes to music, go-go dancers, club promoters, events, hell, bar staff, community staff, nonprofits, all of that. I've been to pride events where the music and the vibe and the organizers and the narratives felt like I was a guest, not a co-creator or someone who the event tailored to. So this year, I'm not asking to be included. I will be taking up all of the space that I can possibly take because we're not a subcategory. We are the culture. We are part of the language, the fashion, the rhythm, the pulse. We deserve to see ourselves reflected and included in the community and leadership on the stages, at the nonprofits, at all the events, and in the heart of every celebration. And that is a fact. So, yes, pride is political. Yes, it is about protest, but it's also about joy. And joy is unfortunately becoming political. There's something radical about laughing when they want you to be silent, or about dancing when they want you to be depressed, or showing up when they don't want you there, about being sensual and expressive, loved when they told you not to be. Joy is not a luxury that we don't get to enjoy. Everybody deserves joy. It's our right. And for some of us, it's also survival. So I will not feel guilty for having a good time, and I will not shrink myself just to seem serious, because joy, when weaponized against a world that wants you miserable, is one of the most powerful acts of resistance that you can demonstrate. So let them play in your face and play right back in theirs. Freedom is not just a law. It's not about just the marriage equality and the bathroom access and all that stuff. It's about waking up and not feeling the need to hide. Pride asks, what would your life be like if you lived without fear? Ask yourself, what could you create if you weren't constantly editing yourself down or performing to make other people feel comfortable? Who would you love if you didn't feel the judgment in the room? And we do that to ourselves within our own community too. Don't get it twisted. Judging who somebody dates, body shaming, judging people's appearance, all that shit. Stop it. Pride is an opportunity to strip all that away, to come together as one community, and for people to join together and say, even if it's just for one day, can we do it for one day and then work up to a month and then a year and then forever? But be able to come together and say, this is me and I'm not afraid. The goal is not perfection, it's not performance, it's wholeness, completeness, authenticity. And that is a journey. We take baby steps every year. Sometimes we take steps back. But I'm hoping that one day we can get there. And every time we choose to show up anyways, that is a step closer. So, despite all the reasons not to show up, be seen, be ourselves 100%, we need to keep showing up because somebody has to, because silence doesn't save us, because hiding doesn't heal us. We show up for those who can't. We show up to be mirrors for others. We show up so the next generation has something to hold on to. I go to Pride and I enjoy myself and have a good time, but I don't just go for me. I go for every version of me that didn't believe I deserved to be seen, and every version of me that didn't believe that I deserved to be loved. And I hope in some way I'm showing up for others too. So to answer the question, is pride still necessary? Yes, 100%. As long as queer kids feel unsafe, as long as trans people are being dehumanized, as long as shame is taught and violence is tolerated, we need pride. But it's not just a party. We love a party, but it's not just a party. There is a purpose, not just the parade. There needs to be presence. We need to show up. It's not just marketing. Can't complain about all the corporations and all that. If we don't show up, there needs to be meaning behind showing up and meaning behind support and allyship. So I will be at World Pride, loud, whole, brave, black, queer as fuck, and obviously unapologetic. And I hope that everyone attends their local pride. Thank you for listening to this episode of Black Queer Unapologetic. Once again, I am JoJo, and I will see you guys on the next one. Stay black, stay queer, always stay unapologetic, and most importantly, this Pride Month, please stay safe. Bye.